Salutations readers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nkechi, and for today I'm giving y'all my May wrap-up. So, Asian Readathon. It was actually a huge success. Apparently, with an ambitious TBR, I am still able to kind of meet such expectations. Now, did I read all the books in that TBR? Nope! However, I was reading some of them, and then when we ventured off the TBR, even venturing off the theme, but you know what, for other reasons, okay? It's fine. I did all the reading, we got some good books in, we got some not so good books in, but thankfully, no one-star books, so that I did not read any terrible books. So that's a win in my book. This month has been pretty much like a vlog heavy, so most of my reading actually was completed through those videos, so I will link all the videos down below, and also the TBR video down below too, if you have not checked out that video. So I will link everything down below in the description, so please check that out. Anyways, let's start talking about the stats. So I read 13 books this month, which is the most I've ever read in a single month, y'all. Like, we were really up there with quantity this month, which is awesome. Although usually when it comes to reading a lot of books in 1 month, I tend to DNF a lot. So I actually DNF'd 6 books. Actually, here's the actual thing. Most of the DNFs were soft DNFs. Some of the rest of the DNFs are like kind of hard, or like maybe I need more time away from it to come back to it. But half of the DNFs are actually soft DNFs because I was overwhelmed with reading so much books, and I need to bring down the current reads down. So that's what happened. So there's not all these DNFs are hard DNFs, just for the record, to let the record show. Also, number of pages, 2,149 pages, which is both physical and digital, and then hours listened, 60.32 hours. So yeah, definitely a lot of reading, a lot of audiobook listening time. This is definitely more the higher end of like physical and digital pages I've read in a month, so that's pretty cool. And also pretty high on the number of hours I've been listening to audiobooks too. So yeah, this is definitely like my most well-read month as far as quantity. Now quality, see, this is what we're kind of going like, because the average rating was 3.58, which is not terrible. It's not the greatest, but it's still pretty good. I've definitely had worse average ratings for sure, but for like a readathon heavy month where I read so many books, this is actually pretty good. And thankfully, again, no one-star books, so we're doing really good with this month. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the stats. Now let's talk about the 6 books that I DNF'd this month. I do have 3 of them physically, but let me just quickly go over these DNFs. I don't really have much to say for a lot of them, or I've already said them in the vlog video stuff. So yeah, let's start with the very first DNF of the month, which was the Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. Sorry y'all, this was literally part of my Asian Readathon TBR. I DNF'd this during my, I think, Minnesota Spring Diary number 5. I DNF'd it nearly halfway through. I'm still gonna hold on to this book and the sequel. I think I'm gonna hold on to it because like I want to give this series a chance. I heard so many good things about this series, and who knows, maybe I could be more inclined to really pick up and be really more interested in the series, because I was really liking the writing in the world, but then I was really getting kind of bored. Again, it's probably because I was just getting overwhelmed with the amount of current reads and I wanted to just read something else. So I think I'll come back into this one, especially with the 3rd book coming out in November. Now here's the thing. If the fans of this series say that the 3rd book is disappointing, I'm unhauling this series, okay? Because I'm not here to read a disappointing end to a series. I'm just not, okay? We're not gonna have a good start and then like have a bad ending. But for now, I'll hold on to the Jasmine Throne and the Oleander Sword. Next up, I soft DNF'd Linghun by Eids. This one I was borrowing from my library. I do want to try this again, but I don't think I was really in the headspace to really read this horror novella. I'll give this another shot. Just right now, I'm not really in the headspace to read it. And then I did soft DNF'd They Are There by Tommy Orange. I'm still gonna read this one. I was, again, not in the mood to read it, and I still actually have my bookmark right here, so again, I'm not unhauling this one. I'm gonna hold on to this because I still have Wandering Stars, which I still want to read. Very much looking forward to reading They Are There whenever I'm really in the contemporary literary fiction mood. And then, okay, Heather, if you're watching this, can you like skip ahead to like the next section where I actually talk about the books, because I soft DNF'd Labyrinth's Heart. This is a soft DNF, okay? Again, this is one of these books that I was overwhelmed with reading so many other things that I just needed to put this book down. I'm not in the mood to read this. Like, I started reading this around my birthday, and I barely picked it up in April, and in May, I was like, I just can't. I need to put the book down. I'm gonna come back to it. I already own the audiobook, so I'm going to come back to finish this series. I still have my bookmark right here, so it will happen. It just was not happening in April or May. And then these other 2 DNFs were literally from my swapping screen time with reading challenge vlog. So definitely watch that one for more context for these ones. But I did DNF Thunderbird book 1, got bored, might try again when the final book comes out. And then I also DNF'd Dear Wendy pretty early on. I was getting really annoyed with these characters. I can't deal with like this drama stuff. I can't bother. And also I wasn't really vibing with the characters themselves either. So this one was a miss for me. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the DNFs. Now let's get to the 13 books that I read this month. Okay, so the first book I read this month was actually not for my Asian Readathon TBR. I was trying to do a video series, but it kind of, I mean, the way I was filming it flopped. So the video never came out. At the beginning of the month, I was reading The Wolf and the Woodsman. This one was an adult historical fantasy that's set in based on like Hungarian history with Jewish mythology, and we follow Evocation, who's like a pagan girl who gets chosen, or like kind of get tricked into being chosen for this one kingdom's tradition of always taking a pagan girl to see the king or something, and the posse gets like attacked by some creatures. So FAK had to work with this one of these night people guys named Gaspar, and yeah, it's a whole kind of adventure thing. And part of it felt like fairy tale-esque when we're in like the woods and stuff, because there was a lot of like talk about the Jewish mythology there, and we're going paganism. And then we get into more like political intrigue when we actually get to the kingdom itself. And I really liked Ava Reed's writing style in this one. It's not like flowery or anything poetic like I studied in Drowning, but it is really more grounded, but I still really like it because it's still vivid and descriptive. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This was like a really strong debut novel, and I kind of wish I don't know if Ava Reed would go back to a story like this in the future, but like this was just really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know, there's just something about this story, and I found these 2 characters, like Evocation and Gaspar, they have like this enemies to lovers kind of like romance subplot. And I really liked how Ava Reed handled that story, because it really makes sense, and especially since it's based on like Hungarian history, and there is Jewish mythology, there is also talks about regarding a Christian society and treating Jewish people during that time. So, and I really liked how Ava Reed handled that as well. So yeah, this was just a really good debut novel. I highly recommend it, honestly. I know some people who probably have read it thought it was kind of boring. Honestly, this was just really more interesting. I really am here for like a political intrigue, historical fantasy. 4.25 stars. Recommend. And then of course in my, Minnesota Spring Diary video, I read The Emperor in the Endless Palace by Justinian Huang. This is a debut novel. It came out this year, actually. This is a genre-bending romantic thriller with some fantastical elements, and I do remember in that video I was talking more about the mismarketing of this book and stuff, and all the things, and romance. I had a whole rant. Y'all can check out that video, but like, all in all, I really enjoyed this one. I think I give this just a solid 4 because we do have 3 timelines, and it took me a while to really get used to like the timelines, since they're very different in like the character positions, relationships, and the time periods as well. But I do think that this is just the way that Justinian Huang went about this story was so unique, and I'm always here for like genre bending, just disrupting genre convention books. That's just usually my is my bread and butter? Kind of. Like, I really love it when authors just like say, you know what, fuck the genre conventions, let's try something different. So yeah, I still recommend this. At least give it a shot. I do recommend the audiobook too. Now granted, I know this has been somewhat marketed again like a romantasy, and it's not your typical, not like the usual romantasy you're used to seeing being published nowadays. This is definitely a way, it takes some liberties, y'all. This is definitely like more romantic thriller for sure. I can see it being more romantic thriller, but even then, it's also not your typical romantic thriller either. I recommend more people to read it. And then Juniper Thorn. This one's a gothic horror retelling of the Juniper tree. This one, I remember hearing a lot about how this one is gonna be like really heavy and really dark. It is definitely dark and pretty heavy. But I give this one 3.5 stars. I like the audiobook, but I don't know. There's something about the story itself that I felt like too similar to me with like A Study in Drowning. Even though like setting and atmospheric wise, they're definitely different books, but like as far as the topics and the dark themes, it's still similar to A Study in Drowning. And since I've already read A Study in Drowning, I kind of prefer A Study in Drowning's way of doing it than Juniper Thorn. It's still a good book. I give it a 3.5, but it's just fine. I was like, okay, this is pretty solid. I mean, I know nothing about the Juniper tree, that story at all, but as far as the gothic horror, I think it does pretty well. I'm like, I think this is just good. That's all I can say, that this is good. It's nothing amazing. It didn't really wow me other than that, like The Wolf of the Woodsman or anything. Or I didn't feel super connected with the characters, but yeah, this is definitely a story, though you definitely need to look at the content warnings because there's a lot of graphics content in here that, like, even the moderate content you really need to be aware of. Like, there's graphic sexual assault, we have graphic emotional abuse, there's also a little bit of pedophilia. It's minor, but there's a little bit of pedophilia. There's that's definitely something to keep in mind. I mean, that's just what I remember in the top of my head. This is a story that is hard to even recommend to people because of the dark subject matter, but if you think you can handle it and you're the right mindset or headspace to read it, then I would recommend at least checking it out. But it's definitely my least favorite out of Ava Reed's work so far. But I'm so excited, though, to read more from them and see what else they will write, especially with Lady Macbeth coming out this summer. And then now I'm going to talk about all the books that I pretty much read in my swapping screen time for reading time challenge. I'm going to kind of try to speed read these ones a little bit because, y'all, it's a lot of books. So I started off this challenge with reading 4 Eids and a Funeral. I gave this one 3 stars. I got it as an advanced listening copy from Macmillan Audio, so thanks to them for that. This is YA contemporary romance. It's fine. I really was more interested in, like, the rekindling of, like, a friendship than really them being romantically involved, honestly. And that usually happens a lot of times regarding, like, friends and they become lovers. It's like, I'd rather them just be friends. And that's what happened here. But I really like the plot, though, of them trying to save this Islamic community center. That plot line was really, really interesting. And I think that was pretty cool. So, yeah. I recommend the audiobook as well, since it's dual narrative, so there are 2 narrators for the POVs, and there's this other third narrator for, like, the times when they spent Eids, these 4 particular Eids together. So, yeah, hence the title, 4 Eids and a Funeral. And then I read Squire, finally, by Sarah Alfaghi and Nadia Shamas. This was actually originally part of my Asian Readathon TBR, and I'm so glad I did. It's a really good YA fantasy adventure graphic novel, and it's a complete standalone as well. But there are a lot of, like, historical influences that are very much, like, similar to regarding Palestine, and I loved on how the author and the illustrator were able to depict such a story like this, where we have this main girl, Eids, who is pretty much, like, indoctrinated and also buying into this propaganda regarding becoming a knight. And then how she goes into this training for to be a knight, but then she finds actually the truth regarding all this. Especially, and then the fact that she has to hide the fact that she is of a different race as well, which I really, really loved, and how the writer and illustrator were able to convey that story. It's just really, really good. 5 stars. This was actually, this was actually the only 5-star of the month, and I highly recommend this. New favorite for sure. And if these 2 collaborate again for another graphic novel, I'm going to be seated, okay? I'll wait for another one. But yeah, this was just really good. I love the art style. Y'all, the art style was really good, and all of the facial expressions, the characters were enjoyable, the theming, the messages, everything. It's just so good. Please, I recommend, check out this book out. Please do. Y'all are missing out if y'all have not read Squire yet. Look at this. Look at that art. And then I listened to the audiobook of When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. Yes, the same Veronica Roth that wrote the Divergent trilogy. This one I really enjoyed, and it makes me really curious to read more of her adult works. I give this one 4.25 stars. I got it as an advanced listening copy from Macmillan Audio, so thanks to them again. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's very short. It's actually like a novella, actually, if you got it physically. And I do feel like a reread is necessary, though, because I feel like I've definitely missed some things. I think I might have zoned out a little bit in some parts. But for the most part, though, it's still really enjoyable. I think it's really cool. It's a really well thought out, like, contemporary fantasy that has, like, Slavic, Polish mythology. And usually I'm not really a fan of, like, contemporary fantasies. But I think this novella did a contemporary fantasy really well. I mean, it was short. It's easy. I got through all the characters and themes. It was just really good. Not quite a favorite, but maybe in a reread it could be a favorite. But I did really enjoy this one, so I recommend that one. And then I read The Last Phi Hunter by Celine Goldenberg. This was a book that I really should have just DNF'd and just left as a DNF. I think I DNF'd it. When did I DNF this book? I don't remember. And honestly, I really should have left it as a DNF. I had a whole rant in that reading challenge log for this book. All I know is to say that my original DNF thoughts on this book did not actually change when I actually finished the entire thing. So yeah, that was a mistake. I really should have just left it alone. But the audiobook made it easier, though, for me to read, because the ebook, I was not having it with the ebook. But the audiobook, though, made it easier to actually absorb the story. I don't quite recommend this one. It's not a strong debut, but if the author has something else, I might try them again. But yeah, not the greatest debut novel. And then I read another Ark, Lost Ark Dreaming by Sweetie Davis Okumboa. I give this one 4 stars as a speculative novella. But yeah, this was just a really good speculative novella that really is reminiscent of The Deep by River Solomon. I don't want to say too much, but there are indeed some creatures from the deep that are similar to this novella. And yeah, this is very much giving futuristic, dystopian, classics, Kabbalistic future regarding the rise of sea levels based on like Nigeria, West Africa. So yeah, I recommend this one. It also has some mixed media elements as well. Definitely recommend it. Also the novella too, so short. And then I gave a dedicated reading vlog to Evocation by S.T. Gibson. There's a whole reading vlog for this one, so link that one down below as well. This one I gave 3 stars. It was really a mixed bag, y'all. There were things I liked, things I didn't quite like. Like, I liked the journey of seeing David being, like, pretty much and being insufferable to someone being at least somewhat likable, or at least mostly tolerable, and someone I can understand and sympathize with. And I really liked his connection with Moira, that is not romantic, but it's also, like, sort of platonic, but it's, like, a really deep psychic connection. I really like that one. And also seeing Reese and Moira's marriage as well, and how they deal with, like, communication and boundaries. I think that's really, really good, especially since we have, like, a V-shaped polyamorous situation. It's like, this is not a triangle, this is literally a V-shaped one, where Reese here is in the middle, and then we have David and Moira here. So, yeah, I think this one's, like, really strong, and the connection between David and Moira are pretty good. At least I grew to at least appreciate that connection. My only problem really with this V-shaped throuple is David and Reese, because those two had a history that of being like boyfriends and stuff, and the reasons why they broke up as well. I'm like, that makes sense. It really does for both of them. And they kind of broke up, so it's kind of, so even with the story itself, it's still hard for me to really say that, like, oh yeah, I'm totally here for their romance. I'm like, I'm not quite really sold on their romance, unfortunately. And the biggest disappointment though was the plot. Like, the actual plot regarding this family curse, I really thought would be a more bigger deal. I mean, it's still an important deal. It's actually a reason why these 3 people are even together in the first place. Like, for real, Moira and Reese were now trying to fuck around with David like that until this family curse thing showed up. So yeah, and that's why I'm just like, I wish the actual plot regarding this was more of a forefront, instead of being like, oh, this is a nice motivation, but it's kind of back burner. Until like the last 50 pages, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole deadline? What? The actual plot progression here really sucked. I hated it so much on the plot. So, I don't know, maybe there'll be more of a plot in the rest of the book series, since this is the first book in the 4-book series, and each book focuses on particular characters, which also is a problem that I have, because I don't like series, it's like actual direct series that go by, oh, we focus on one character, then another character. Like, no, I don't like that. Can we have them be fully realized, or something like really, David is the only fully realized character in the entire book, because it's literally his book. This is my Ark copy. I do have the finished artwork copy, but I'm not even gonna keep that one, honestly. I'm gonna keep my Ark copy, because I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It's a 3, it's fine. I'm still gonna read the sequels. It was a disappointment, but at least it was good enough for me to continue on the series. And then, this book was really disappointing. This next book here, y'all. This next book here was also disappointing, because I also read it for the Reading Challenge vlog. And this was Dragonfruit by Makia Lucier? I'm not totally sure how to pronounce her last name. Is it Lucier? I don't know. But this was a book that I actually was anticipating, like, late last year. This was a highly anticipated release, and it really disappointed me. I read it this one, again, it was just part of my Asian Readathon TBR originally, and I read it for the Full Moon Book Club live show hosted by Juniper Thorn. I will link the live show down below if any of y'all are interested. But yeah, this one was disappointing. I was very disappointed. This was my first time reading anything by this author, and while it was really easy to read because I read this thing in less than 24 hours, however, I was disappointed in writing because it was boring. The characters were just there. I didn't feel that connected to the characters. I felt the characters were kind of boring as well. And as far as the plot itself, I felt we were having 2 separate plots being put into one book, but whatever. Like, the only thing I really liked about this book was like the tattoo magic and the animal companions. And also Fetu, this little fruit bat right here. This little guy. He's such a cutie. So definitely don't look at content warnings for this book, because if you're someone who does not like animal death, and specific like animal death and animal cruelty, pass on this one, because there's a lot of animal death and cruelty here. It's 2.5 stars. I'm unhauling this one. Someone else can have it. But yeah, one of the most disappointing books of the year for sure. Anyways, let's start talking about some other books. Whew, hold on, I need to drink something real quick. These next 2 books I read for the Minnesota Spring Diary number 6. So that'll be my most recent video. So the first book I read, I finished in that video diary, was Alone Through the Ether by Olivia Blake, which I was genuinely surprised on how much I enjoyed this one. This is a literary romance, and this is the only Olivia Blake title that's not a fantasy. And honestly, I kind of love that for her, because I love this one more than anything else I've read, because I have read just about everything, well, if I don't count the Atlas trilogy and their sequels, quite, because I did read the Atlas 6, and again, I did give it a low rating 2 years ago, but I did read One for My Enemy, Masters of Death, and now Alone Through the Ether, and this is my favorite one out of anything Olivia Blake has written so far. I give this one 4.5 stars. I really like the writing. I actually really like following these 2 characters, Reagan and Aldo falling in love, and that's what this is. This is a love story, but it is also a romance, and I really also want to give a dedicated review video for this one as well, so we'll see if that actually will come out this month or anything, but like I do want to give an actual dedicated review video for this one, because I really am genuinely surprised on how much I love this book. This is definitely the biggest surprise of the year for me. I had no idea. I truly believed I was going to give this book like 2, maybe a 2.5 to be generous. Not me out here saying like this is a 4.5 star book, but it's so character driven to the point that there's actually no plot, which is also why it surprised me, because I was like, there's no plot. Like, y'all, there is no plot in this story. It's just these 2 meeting each other, falling in love, getting into a relationship, and also learning that they are also lovable in their own unique ways, because these are not even likable characters either, and yet I also I just really liked reading them. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like this book is just where Olivia Blake really shines, where we just focusing on the characters themselves, and plot is, personally, I don't think plot is really her strongest suit, so the fact that this is a completely plotless book makes some sense, honestly. And this is just where she shined the most. I really loved it. Do I recommend it? I mean, I recommend it if you want to give it a shot, but just know that there's absolutely no plot. Then I also read Red String Theory by Lauren Kung Jessen. This is the author of Lunar Love, which I read last year for the holiday book rush. This is another romance novel. This one was fine. It was cute. I gave it a 3 stars, honestly. I like listening to it via audio though, but as far as the story itself, it was fine. I don't know, maybe this is just meant to be more, I mean, it's not quite Lunar New Year time, but like the whole Red String of Fate thing it reminded me of like Lunar Love a little bit too much, and I preferred Lunar Love than Red String Theory personally. So that's just where we at. It's a 3. I don't really have much else to say about it, honestly. And then the last and final book that I read this month, but I literally finished like a couple days ago, and I'm still trying to process what the actual fuck I read, was Supplication by Noor Abi Nahul. This is a debut novel. It's literary horror, and it's very, very hallucinatory. It's very surreal. Like, this is supposed to be a story where we're following a young woman who comes to in a basement with her arms tied behind her back, and then she sees her kidnapper, and then one of them has a knife, and it's very weird. Like, y'all, like, you start off page 1 thinking, what the fuck did I read? Because the writing style is so unique, and it truly fits this story. This writing style makes it feel like I'm in a freaking fever dream. Like, I'm like, am I dreaming? Is this real? What's real? What's not real? What's a metaphor? What's actual? Well, I don't know. I didn't know what was fact and what was fiction. I was damn right confused. But then I also didn't hate it. Like, I wasn't even hating my time. I was listening to it via audio, but I also had the ebook. Also, I also looked at the reviews. It's also the lowest rated book I've ever read in my life. Like, at least on Storygraph, it's like a 2.78 or something. Like, y'all, it's really low. Even though not a lot of people has read it, but it's very low. And it makes sense. It makes sense why it is low. I think there's a review of someone, I'm going to put it here in the screen, that I found on Storygraph, that is pretty accurate to how I felt about it, the book, right after I finished it. And I have to say, yeah, it's very much, it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of this stuff is really up for interpretation. You just have to kind of like piece it through yourself. Like, I don't know what is it really trying to say. I don't know if it's trying to, I mean, I think it is talking about like maybe trauma. It's just that the way it got about it, I'm just not totally sure what about trauma is trying to say. I don't know, maybe like reclaiming your story, but also, I don't know. I'm still not totally sure what this book was trying to say, but I did not hate my time reading it. I don't know. It was a little bit over 200 pages if you to read it physically or the ebook. It's about 5.5 hours long on audio, so I don't know. I really could have finished it in a day, but I really had to split it up into two because it was a lot, honestly. And I just don't know how to, like, I don't know. I need 2 business years to process this book. And I also need someone smarter than me to also explain it to me as well, because again, I was really, really confused. So if you were anticipating this book because you knew that this was like literary horror, hallucinatory kind of horror, it's all of that. Literary horror, hallucinatory, surreal horror. If you're not into surreal horror, pass on this book. You're gonna hate the book. Like, also, try reading the first page. You know what? Hold up. There was nothing before the moment of my eyes opening in the room. An instant held at arm's length from the conveyor belt of instants, suspended in its own little world, in a self-sufficient pod, and now before. Piercing the atmosphere of that moment's world was a direct plunge into the now. Suddenly and without warning came the shock of the unending present, a raw and jagged edge. That's literally how the book was written the entire time. Is this bad writing? Honestly, no. I think this is actually pretty well written. This is some trippy ass writing, and it's truly a feat to be able to write a book like that the entire time. So yeah, I hope that gives you a good alignment glimpse into the writing style and the kind of story, just to warn y'all. So, if you're also wondering what my rating was, I really refuse to rate it. I did not know how to rate a book this surreal. Like, I thought Catherine House would be pretty weird. Like, Catherine House is weird, but there was at least something that grounded the book that I could actually really explain. This one, I don't even know. Genuinely, I have no idea. It was an entire experience, and I have no idea how to rate it. This is just not a book that I think you could really rate it, unless you're smarter than me and you can decipher whatever Abby Nahul was trying to write. So yeah, I don't know, y'all. Anyways, yes, these are all the books, well, physically, anyways, that I read this month. This was kind of a weird reading month, honestly. I found some really good books, some not so good books, and some really weird books. I found some surprises too. So yeah, I don't know how June is gonna look. Like, now I'm just like, wait, what is June gonna look like? Because now now that I ended the month with like a literary fiction, I feel like I'm kind of in the mood for some literary fiction, but I still want to read some fantasies, and now I want to read some nonfiction. Yo, I don't know what I'm gonna be reading in June, and it's also be Pride Month, so also this video's coming in Pride Month, so like, happy Pride Month, y'all. But yeah, I have no idea how my June reading is gonna look like anymore. I think it's just gonna be kind of like my May one, but like it's gonna be really weird. Like, y'all, I'm gonna be reading, I don't know what I'm gonna be reading anymore. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. Like it if you like it, subscribe if you want to, comment down below any of y'all's thoughts on any of the books I've read, all the things. Please, let me know, how was y'all's reading month for May? Whether you participated in the Asian Readathon or not, I will still like to know what was like your favorite, least favorite, best book, worst book, mediocre book, any other things. I just want to know how y'all's reading was in May. How did it treat y'all? Were y'all in a reading slump? All the things. I have questions, and please answer them down below if you feel comfortable. If you made it this far into the video, you don't have much else to say, you want to leave me down an emoji, leave me an hourglass emoji, whether it's the one that's filling up or the one that's empty, whichever one, in honor of the Asian Readathon, since the theme for this one was past lives. Anyways, thank you all for coming on to this video and watching it, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye.